corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, May 16th, 2019. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We have got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot going on in the world here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. So let's just get right on into it here. And obviously the big news, at least here in the independent media, is Iran. It's sort of being backed off on the corporate media, and I'm not sure exactly what that means yet, but we're looking at that. But I noticed the British press has gone back to saying that the reason for this escalation goes back to the claims that Iran was putting their missiles on boats and sailing them to within launching distance of U.S. bases. And it's being reported there are photos of these missiles on these boats, but of course the photos are never offered in the publication. It's photos of the American aircraft carriers, photos of the damage to the oil tankers, and so forth, but no actual photos of Iranian missiles on Iranian boats. Again, take that with a grain of salt here. But as we reported yesterday, Germany and the Netherlands have halted the training of Iraqi troops following the U.S. announcement that it would partially evacuate the Baghdad embassy. And some people are saying, well, it's just a simple precaution. And others are saying, no, this looks like a prelude to an attack. And it may even signal something about to shift dramatically on the ground in Iraq, because remember, Baghdad is refusing to allow the United States to use their territory to invade Iran. So we may see the United States moving to change the government of Iraq yet again and put in somebody who's going to say, yeah, sure, go ahead, start another war here. Interestingly enough, though, we're getting indications from other governments around the world. They're not all hot and bothered for a new war in Iran, or for anywhere else that matter. And there's definitely a pushback with other countries saying, don't do this. It's not a good idea. They're warning against a military escalation. And pretty much everybody understands by this stage that claims made against Iran by the United States are likely to be fictional. And I'm looking at this one article. This came out of the Middle East Eye, saying the U.S. provides scant evidence to back up Iran threat claims. And of course, the U.S. is claiming Iran is preparing to attack U.S. troops stationed in the region. Iran has connections to Al-Qaeda. They did that one with Iraq as well. Iran committed acts of sabotage on the oil tankers in the Gulf. And there's a lot of skepticism about how valid some of Washington's claims really are. Others have raised concern about the Trump administration going to war with Iran based on unproven allegations, which of course harkens back to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Anyway, the Trump White House is rejecting reports that there's a lot of infighting going on over the subject of Iran, and basically said, he tweeted out, there is no infighting whatsoever. But I think, yeah, it sounds to me like probably a lot of people are saying this is not a good idea. We know that Trump originally was not hot to go to war in Iran. The Pentagon wasn't. This is all coming from Bolton. But Trump tweeted out, different opinions are expressed, and I make the decisive and final decision. It's a simple process. All sides' views and policies are covered. And here's the telling line. I'm sure that Iran will want to talk soon, signaling it may just be a gigantic bluff to get Iran to come back and negotiate a new nuclear deal that would include the long-range ballistic missiles. But the allies are definitely pushing back against all of this anti-Iran rhetoric. Meanwhile, over at the Senate, they're asking, what the heck is going on? Senate Foreign Operations Appropriations Subcommittee Chair Lindsey Graham is a hawk, but added that he doesn't think it's fair for the administration to just leave the Senate wondering, and some are wanting a briefing, while Senators Mike Lee and Rand Paul expressed concern about the possibility of a new war, noting that the administration has never gotten permission from Congress for a war. So they're trying to reassert Congress's authority over the war-making ability, because that's the way the Constitution was written. Only Congress can declare war. The president has limited military options under the War Powers Act, but they're limited. Unfortunately, we've had presidents go back to that authorization for the use of force in Iraq from 2003, which, by the way, President Bush lied to get that. And they just said, well, we're going to apply that here and we're going to apply that there. But lately we've seen Congress standing up and saying, no, you don't get to go to war without our say-so. That's the rules written in the Constitution. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Another story coming out of Global Research talking about the media's handling of Bolton's Iran threats. And as usual, the corporate media is fully on board, echoing all of the propaganda. You know, Iran did this, Iran did that, Iran are bad people. And again, use of the media is in large part how the Bush administration sold the U.S. invasion of Iraq to the American people, just feeding this totally bogus claims on Iraq's non-existent weapons of mass destruction programs to reporters, who then published it as fact without any critical scrutiny. So it's happening all over again, because that's what the corporate media gets paid all that money to do, to sell you things. Even Tucker Carlson was chiming in on it, saying it's chilling how MSNBC and CNN are agitating for war with Iran. So, anyway. All right. Another article here. Warnings of Gulf of Tonkin 2.0. And they're talking about how the Trump officials are already blaming Iran for the oil tanker attacks. No evidence who did it. They're saying it was done with limpet mines, which means somebody had to swim out there all the way into the channel. These ships were not in port at the time. And somebody got it behind these tankers and slapped those limpet mines on there and then set them off. So there's absolutely no evidence to indicate where they came from. And commentators are likening the accusations to the Gulf of Tonkin, which was this fabricated event that President Johnson used to escalate America's war in Vietnam. Now, for those too young to remember, what happened at the Gulf of Tonkin, there had been some confrontations between U.S. ships and North Vietnamese ships. But at this specific one, the Gulf of Tonkin, what happened? An inexperienced sonar operator accidentally trained the sonar dead astern and heard his own ship's propellers screamed, "Torpedo, torpedo, torpedo." The report went up the chain of command all the way to the White House. The captain realized what had happened on the USS Maddox, set up a follow-up report saying, false alarm, false alarm. Lyndon Johnson took the first report of the torpedo, trashed the second report that it was a false alarm, went to Congress and got the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, and that basically escalated the war in Vietnam. 60,000 American dead, something like 3 million total overall. So people are still talking about that New York Times article. The headline was, White House reviews military plans against Iran in echoes of Iraq war, claiming that more than half a dozen national security officials and had a meeting with President Trump discussing the plan to send as many as 120,000 troops to the Middle East. Now, Trump has come on out and said that was fake news. Well, it may not actually have been the Times' fault, because apparently the number of 120,000 came from Bolton. And so Bolton is out there leaking information, trying to start his little war with Iran. So yesterday, helicopters started ferrying U.S. staff from the American Embassy in Baghdad and take them to the airport for the flight home. And everyone's still pointing about these Sunday's attack on these 4 oil tankers in the Gulf. Now, nobody has claimed responsibility for that. Iran denies it. Iran doesn't really have a reason to do something like that. Then you have Saudi Arabia's concern about these armed drones that hit 2 of its oil pumping stations. Now, a U.S. government source has said American security experts believe Iran gave its blessing to the tanker attack. So they're not even saying Iran did it anymore, only that Iran gave its blessing. So the source said the United States believes Iran's role was one of actively encouraging the attack, but actually admitted the United States does not have any evidence that Iranian personnel played any direct operational role. So they're admitting they don't have any evidence about it, but by golly, we know Iran feels good about this, and that's good enough for us. Another article that came out of Moon of Alabama here, basically talking about getting into a war with Iran, and on the other side is going to be China and Russia aiding them, the way Russia is aiding Syria and will probably aid Venezuela. And we need to remember the United States is not exactly winning in Syria. And we've pretty much lost in Afghanistan, although they're trying to keep that under wraps, at least for the moment here. So we're looking at a situation where China and Russia could be seen to defeat the United States if we go into Iran. Anyway, we had this Major General Christopher Ghika, Deputy Commander of Operation Inherent Resolve over in Iraq, and he came out with a briefing saying that there's been no increased threat from Iranian-backed forces in Iraq and Syria. So Bolton tried to counter that by coming on out and saying the State Department has ordered the removal of all the non-emergency personnel from Iraq amid the escalating tensions. So Bolton's out there trying to basically create a cause for war pretty much out of thin air. Tucker Carlson basically went on the offensive against Bolton for his apparent love of violent conflict, saying that for him, war with Iran would be like Christmas, Thanksgiving, and his birthday all rolled up in one. And Carlson made the point saying, mercifully, John Bolton doesn't command the military. The big question is how strong is his influence on President Donald Trump. Okay. I'm getting word that we had a temporary blackout. Yeah, I'm getting the emails about it right now. Okay, well, we're back now. So we're talking about the run-up to war with Iran. John Bolton pushing for war. Other countries starting to say this is not a good idea. And it's so obvious Bolton is behind this. There was this interesting headline over at Blacklisted News, how President Bolton plans to send 120,000 troops to the Middle East. And they describe Donald Trump as a cigar store Indian president sitting behind the big desk, attacking a large array of enemies with daily salvos of noisome tweets pounded into an overheated smartphone. He's not in the loop on this one. Harry Truman's buck no longer stops at the Resolute desk. I think that's a very good observation. Iranian Defense Minister Brigadier General Amir Hatami says the Islamic Republic has currently the highest level of defense preparedness to counter any threat against the country. They're apparently on high alert and on standby. He said today the Islamic Republic of Iran stands, well, he's just repeating the first paragraph here. Iran has attained such a high level of preparedness despite being under sanctions, stressing that restrictive measures against the country have failed to hinder Iran's boosting of its defensive power. Even the U.S. acknowledge Iran's capabilities. They're not going to be the pushover that Iraq was. And they can, with their long-range missiles, cause a lot of damage all around that part of the world. This war is a bad idea. Saudi Arabia yesterday submitted a letter to the United Nations Security Council in which it also blamed Iran, along with the Yemeni Houthi group, for the attacks on the oil facilities. They're blaming Iran for the tanker attacks. They're blaming the Houthi group for the drone strikes on the pumping stations. And the letter was handed over by the permanent representative of Saudi Arabia to the United Nations, Abdallah al-Mulami. The letter included Saudi Arabia's holding of Iran and Houthi militias it supports fully responsible for Tuesday's attack on the kingdom's oil facilities. And Saudi Arabia keeps making the point that one of those tankers was going to load oil destined for the United States. So they're trying to say, see, this is U.S. interests were at risk here. So turning on down to South America here, and Venezuela may not be Syria, but the tactics are pretty much the same. Juan Guaido has declared himself Venezuela's interim president, and Washington's response has been predictable. It echoes the bombastic and hollow humanitarian crisis type of war propaganda, which has been used over and over and over in these resource-rich nations from Afghanistan to Iraq to Libya to Syria, and it's now being replayed in Venezuela. And it's always the same playbook. Demonize the leadership and those who defend the country, support an opposition that is inevitably violent, whitewash their crimes, sanction the country and attack the infrastructure to create unbearable conditions for the people, create fake news about humanitarian issues, possible false flag incidents to incriminate the government, control the narrative, and insist intervention is needed for the well-being of those poor, suffering people down there. We have seen that before. Article from Counterpunch. Okay, so what 50 countries are backing Guaido? Who knows? And American media is still referring to Juan Guaido, America's hand-picked legitimate president of Venezuela, as having an administration. The truth is that his administration, his advisors, and his opposition leaders are all either arrested and being held by the government. They're in hiding. They're seeking asylum in various foreign embassies, or they've fled to other countries like Brazil and Colombia. Guaido right now is a government of one. And the only reason he hasn't been arrested is that Maduro doesn't want to give the U.S. an excuse to try and rescue him or to launch military actions, which the White House keeps threatening to do. So apparently, Canadian Prime Minister had a phone call with Guaido. And after we come back from these commercials, I'll tell you what they said.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life
media
wonderland.
dominates the
LibertyStickers.com has a
Finding
huge
independent
inventory
voices
of
that
political
counter
bumper
this
stickers
avalanche
and
is
messages
becoming
that reflect the
increasingly
truth
difficult.
about our
With
government,
the endless
our
corruption
politicians,
running
and the
rampant throughout
future
our
of
government.
America.
Independent
With so
voices
many
are
in
needed more
stock,
than
there's
ever
one
to
perfect
battle
for
the
you.
offensive
Visit us
against our
today at
freedoms and liberties.
LibertyStickers.com. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I'd like to start off by, first of all, thanking everybody who's been donating to RBN, to whatreallyhappened.com. Every little bit of it is helping. We're in a time of great need. And the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. So we're talking about this phone call that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had with, I love this, the way this article is written. This is from Breitbart, and they address him as Venezuelan President Juan Guaido. And basically, Juan Guaido assured Trudeau that they will have free and fair elections as soon as possible in Venezuela. And of course, they had free and fair elections in Venezuela just last year. Maduro won. Guaido didn't even run. So this is just... So they're out there claiming to be working with the Lima Group to make sure that they're going to have honest elections in Venezuela. But interestingly enough, the Lima Group's February declaration of support for Guaido was not signed by 3 of its members, namely Guyana, St. Lucia, and Mexico. So I don't know what Trudeau is waiting in on this for. Meanwhile, up in Washington, D.C., in clear violation of Venezuelan law, or rather international law, police broke into Venezuela's embassy with a battering ram to arrest the activists who were there, who'd been invited by the Venezuelan embassy staff. And they were there trying to prevent the building from being seized by Juan Guaido's people. So the final 4 activists have been placed under arrest after police entered the premises earlier today. Over in Syria, the militants have lost more territory. They tried a counterattack against the Syrian Arab army, and it failed. Apparently 4 Syrian Arab army soldiers were killed, 7 others were injured in this failed attack on Hayat Tahrir al-Sham positions near the town of Kobani. Militants captured bodies of 2 killed soldiers and decapitated them. Kind of a little overstatement there. So it's still going on over there, but the writing is on the wall. That war is pretty much all but over. People are still responding now to that report that came out from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons Engineering Group, where they basically came on out and they had studied the physical evidence regarding this so-called chemical weapons attack in Douma and determined it had been staged. That these gas canisters hadn't been fired through the air. They didn't show any dents where they would have hit the ground. They were just placed there by hand. And so even George Galloway is out there saying it's hard to overstate the significance of this revelation. And it says it's poking more holes in the establishment Syria narrative of the evil Assad is gassing his own people. So the OPCW engineers revealed the cylinders were just not dropped from the air. They were just placed there. And the 34 dead on the scene died somewhere else under unknown circumstances, and the bodies were simply grabbed. All right. We're going to take a phone call here. Tony in Puerto Rico. I'm probably going to have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, do you think that artificial intelligence is going to supplant the human race? And do you think it's a good idea?
I think artificial intelligence, well, the term gets misused a lot. They're talking now about context-limited self-teaching software, and to judge by the Weather Channel out here in Hawaii, which uses Watson's AI, it's not really very good. The point I've always been making is if it's self-learning, how does anybody know that it's learning the correct things? It could be learning completely wrong stuff and acting on that information. As far as a general self-aware AI, I think that's still far off in the future. Yes, it could be very dangerous. We're already seeing situations like we have over at Amazon, where they have a computer system watching their employees with the ability to fire them without any human intervention. And to me, that's getting into a very Orwellian kind of a situation. Anyway, Tony, I'm going to ask you to stay on the line. And we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing for the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Tony in Puerto Rico. We're talking about artificial intelligence systems. And we can talk about artificial intelligence, but I think in a broader context, we have to ask ourselves, have computers really become the blessing for humankind that we all thought they were going to be when they first came along? And don't get me wrong, smartphones are great. I like my iWatch. But when we look at how computers are being used against us in terms of the constant surveillance, the cybercrime, the hacking, and you start to wonder, there really is a dark side to this world of computer systems. Tony, you there?
Yeah. Looks like Tony dropped.
Looks like Tony dropped. All right. So the phone lines are open. And so let's get back to the news. All right. Over at the New York Times, apparently looking at the situation in Syria and how it is not very good, the New York Times was prompted to publish a 5,000-word article full of anti-Syrian propaganda about how Assad is being so evil to all these groups within his country here, forgetting, of course, that it is the Damascus government's sovereign right to recover all of its national territory. And yet the Western media, they're still trying to spin this Aleppo-style onslaught to try and discredit the Syrian army from completing its task. I don't know when to say quit. Meanwhile, the United States has blacklisted a Russian police unit in the Southern Republic of Chechnya, as well as 5 individuals under the Global Magnitsky Act, which allows Washington to sanction human rights abusers anywhere, throwing its imperial weight around. Thursday's announcement by the Treasury Department affects the Terek Special Rapid Response Team, the Russian equivalent of a SWAT team. The sanctions also apply against the team commander, named as Abuzayed Vesmaradov. 4 more individuals were added to the blacklist, including the warden of penal colony IK7 by the name of Sergei Leonidovich Kosiev, and the official positions and names of the others were not given. So the U.S. is still out there flinging sanctions all over the place here. Over in Israel, as you know, they just got done celebrating the anniversary of the Nakba. There were protests, and apparently Israeli soldiers wounded 65 Palestinians, according to the medics. And that included 22 children, 5 women, and 3 field paramedics. So the clashes broke out when the Palestinians organized a rally near the border with Israel to mark 71 years for Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe, the day when the state of Israel was born and the Palestinian refugees' problems started in 1948. Thousands of Palestinian demonstrators joined the rally. They waved Palestinian flags, burned tires, chanted slogans, so forth and so on. Okay, now the Palestinian Ministry of Religious Endowment yesterday warned of increasing attacks by Israeli Jewish settlers on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And the warning comes amidst calls by extremist settler groups and organizations to increase the raids of Al-Aqsa Mosque during the last days of Ramadan. The ministry condemned the Israeli police attacks on worshippers in the mosque and their arrest and eviction from the area during the holy month. It called on the international community and all the rights groups to work toward putting an end to the violations carried out by the settlers and the Israeli police throughout the year. Okay, we have another caller on the line, Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Well, I'm a little bit more optimistic than I have been last couple of days. Some of the things I'm looking at as far as war with Iran, I'm beginning to believe that Trump, he's not the smartest guy in the world, but he wants to keep that presidency, and he certainly doesn't want to go down as one of the worst presidents ever. And I think it's being explained to him, not by a turd like Bolton or Pompeo, but by military people who understand the ramifications of a war with Iran, including the possibility, I'm hearing more and more about the D word, the draft, including the fact that we could suffer thousands, literally thousands of casualties, including having boats blown, ships blown out of the water. And I get the impression that he's not too willing to do that. I hope I'm right. I pray I'm right, Mike. But this is the, because I go to a lot of different sources on the net and things I read. I go to RT and I go to other things like that, Sputnik News, Fault Lines show, and your show, and many others. And this is the impression I'm getting, that Trump is now starting to have second thoughts about this. Hopefully he's going to fire Bolton and Pompeo and the other clown there, Abrams. I don't know what you think about that, but I am a little bit more hopeful now that we will avoid a war. I think he may even be listening to Putin. I think he may realize that Putin is not what he's made out to be, but is actually probably the most brilliant statesman in the world today. So,
well, I think despite all the happy talk about arms control agreement and cooperation and mending relations, I think Putin read Pompeo the riot act on Iran and said, we will come in on the side of Iran. It was reported early on that Trump was very cool on the idea of a conflict with Iran. And even the Pentagon, which is definitely stretched thin over the globe right now, they weren't all that happy about it. The push for war appears to become, it was definitely from Bolton and also Mike Pompeo. So the question is going to be who's really in charge. And I think that other article with that headline, President Bolton, Bolton seems to be calling the shots over there. Trump spends his time tweeting, takes a lot of executive time. I think he's enjoying, being the president. But he doesn't really, outside of where cameras are on him or something, like it's a reality show, he doesn't really seem to be doing all that much.
Well, I suggest that people tweet to Trump, get rid of Bolton, Pompeo, not to get us into a war, and to end Abrams. I've been doing it, but now I can't do it for a week because they suspended me. Twitter suspended me. I'm very proud of the fact that they suspended me. Okay? Like I said, I don't exactly use politically correct language sometimes with people, there's some of these warmongers that attack me sometimes, But like I said, but people should Twitter to him and tell him no. And you should also call the White House, 202-456-1111. I've called them a couple of times. Call your congressmen, senators, whatever else. Don't let this happen. We don't need a war. This will be disastrous to this country. You think the economy is bad now? I don't know. I don't think it's as good as they're making it out to be, but it'll be horrendous. Gerald Celente was on David Knight's show today saying that oil prices go over $100 a barrel. I think they go to more than that. I think they go to like $200 or $300 a barrel, especially if the what's that called, the Straits of Hormuz are closed.
Yes.
So I really think that we're like I said, I think Trump may be listening to some of these tweets. Actually, I think people are tweeting him. They're telling him. I think they are calling the White House and stuff like that. And I think he may be. And I think maybe some of the military. I understand a lot of the military people do not want this. They know it's a disaster. And I don't think, as far as Putin reading the Riot Act, or what's the other guy's name, the Lavrov reading the Riot Act, I still don't think Russia would get personally. I think they would just arm the Iranians and cause another Vietnam.
Yes.
Putin is real 4D chess master. He's not going to risk. I don't think he's going to risk the future of the planet by going in a direct confrontation with the United States. I think he would just, arm them. He's already arming them. I'm sure he'll probably have Spetsnaz and people like that giving him advice. And he understands what happened during the Vietnam War. He knows the draft riots and stuff like that. He knows they would have to have a draft in this country. You think he doesn't know that they're having trouble recruiting soldiers right now? Soldiers,
yes.
Sailors, Marines, whatever. He knows that. The man's a master of that stuff. He's like I said, he is a real 4D chess player. Trump, I don't even think knows how to play chess. I know how to play chess. I wish I could find more people that like to play me because I'm pretty good at it. bet you he doesn't even know how to play the game, you know? And also, he's a judo master, where he knows the weaknesses. He knows how to play in the weaknesses of your opponent. So I don't think Russia's going to get involved.
I didn't mean to say that they were going to come on in and go head to head against the U.S. forces. I'm in agreement with you, and Russia's already made this clear some years ago when they were talking about war with Iran back then. Russia said, we'll just arm them, we'll support them, and we'll turn it into a war of attrition that will just grind the United States down.
Exactly. And this isn't Iraq either. It's not a flat country that they could just, the coasts are very rocky. So just to invade, invasion would be very difficult. And like I said, you probably have, because the way that the Iranians have been preparing this for years now. So you know they have, their coasts have big guns and missiles and all that other stuff, kind of like when Normandy, Fortress Europe.
Yes.
So it'll be very tough. You'll probably have ships blown out of the water. You'd have terrible casualties, and you would most likely have a draft very quickly. And once that happens, this country would tear itself apart. Can you imagine these millenniums today and then Generation Z? Can you imagine them, being drafted? You can imagine the parents. Like, I'm a parent of millennials, and I'm also a parent of grandparent of Generation Z. Well, they'd be too young. My grandkids are only like 2 and 5. But one of my sons already was in the military. He got out after one. I'm glad he did. Thank God he got out.
Yes.
Okay. After the tour, because the other son never went in. And the only reason I didn't convince him not to go in is I was still brainwashed. It was a couple of years after he graduated high school. A couple of years after 9/11. And I still, at that point, I hadn't been red pilled yet. I still believe the story the government was telling us, about the planes causing all the damage, and there were Arab terrorists behind it. That's it. I didn't know about the dancing Israelis. I didn't know about the kind of creeps we had in the Pentagon, working in the Pentagon, and I didn't know what a traitor, Cheney and Rumsfeld, and the other neocons behind him were. So that's why. So I didn't. Otherwise, I would have tried everything I could to convince them not to go in. And I would recommend anybody listening to this show, if you're young enough to go in the military today, don't.
No.
Not where you belong. Not the way the military is being misused today. It's not being used like the Constitution. It's not being used to defend this country. It's being used to defend other Saudi Arabia, Israel, oil interests, banker interests, and who knows what, corporate interests of all types. Not there to defend this country. Not when it's over in these places. Don't belong in those places. And that's it, Mike. That's all I got to say.
Well, I think anybody that has military-aged children need to hunt down the online version of Major General Smedley Butler's "War is a Racket" and share that with. And then, if that doesn't do it, take the kids over to the VA hospital and let them see how the veterans are being mistreated.
Right.
Because, once you're used up, once you can't fight, once you can't conquer and deliver the goods, the government has no interest in you. In fact, I remember all the way back in, I think it was 2004, when they were whining that too many of the soldiers were surviving their battlefield injuries, and it was just blowing the budget.
Yeah. And another thing, too, share these things. Share Smedley Butler. Share Operation Northwoods. Share it. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Twitter. Put it all on YouTube. It's not there anyway, but make sure you keep on, because they're, keep on putting it there and putting it there. They can't stop it. They'd like to stop it, but they can't. Okay, that's the only reason I stay on Facebook or Twitter or any other thing, to share things. All right?
Yep.
Other than that, I got no use for any of that stuff. So that's what people need to do. Don't let them do this stuff. Let's take our country back. Let's make sure that the neocons, the neolibs, the Zionists, and whoever else, the oil interests, let's make sure they don't run the country. We, the people, run this country. And Mike, all right, that's all I got to tell you, buddy. Hopefully people listen to
All right. Well, thanks a lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. And I don't know. I think when you look at the reasons behind all these wars, my analysis is that the government has gone far down this path, too far down this path to just turn around. If they were to call off all the wars and try and turn around, they've got nothing left with which to rebuild the nation. So we're in a very, very bad place. And again, I think, first of all, ultimately, we're going to lose these wars. We're certainly not winning in Afghanistan. We're not winning in Syria. And the other is, I think we're coming to a Soviet Union-style crash. Anyway, Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad Malki yesterday submitted a request to the Hague-based International Criminal Court for legal action against the U.S. government for moving its Israel embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which was a violation of international law. So they're trying to go up to the ICC, and we'll see what happens there. Okay, now Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is forming his new government, and apparently he's planning legislation that would block the Israeli Supreme Court and protect the Prime Minister from prosecution over his corruption charges. He basically wants the law to immunize him, saying it's okay for the Prime Minister to be corrupt. That's just the way that we're going to do that here. So the Supreme Court would effectively be transformed from the highest legal power in Israel into merely an advisory body. So we're getting dangerously close to I am the state. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we have a caller on the line, Carrie in California. Aloha, Carrie. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I'm really confused. Maybe you can straighten me out. I don't know how the U.S. government can get away with throwing sanctions here, throwing sanctions there, whatever their whim. They throw a sanction at it, and then everybody's bound to comply with the sanctions. I thought it had to go through the UN to get these things approved. Straighten me out.
Well, generally, the reason the U.S. is able to get away with it is that much of the world's economy still goes through the dollar, and it still goes through what's called the SWIFT system, which is controlled by the United States. And the SWIFT system is this electronic funds transfer, and that is the enforcement device. So the U.S. can simply say, I sanction you, and SWIFT will put a block on all transactions for that individual or organization or that nation. Now, because of the abuse of this system, we're seeing more and more nations are starting to develop parallel systems outside U.S. control. And so the U.S. ability to use the sanctions is starting to erode.
Yeah, and the fact that the oil prices are going up may reinforce Venezuela a little bit, because that's why it kind of crashed in the beginning, because the oil prices drop, but now if they're back up, maybe they'll get stronger.
Well, that would be nice, except that right now the United States has declared sanctions on Venezuela's oil. So Venezuela is having trouble selling their oil to other countries that are afraid to touch Venezuela because they don't want to get hit with a U.S. sanction.
Yeah, our foreign policy is really based on the U.S. dollar, and that's what I think all these wars are about, to maintain the dollar as the reserve currency of the world.
Absolutely.
And the backbone of that, of course, is the petrodollar, and that's why we've had all these wars like we have. Obviously, they want to keep it on, as you said, they want to keep the dollar as a trading currency for the oil. And I think without that, the U.S. dollar crashes and the United States crashes.
Yes.
And that's what, we're fighting against these wars. But the alternative is to, just go into a third world economic status. I mean, well, you either go to war or the whole economy collapses in the country. Well, what do you say to that?
Well, I think that's the thinking inside Washington, D.C. that's been driving this whole situation, is because we're not the manufacturing powerhouse we used to be. We're not the breadbasket to the world anymore, especially with the GMO experiment. So making money off our money is about the only thing that's still holding things together. And so when you had countries like Iraq start talking about selling their oil for the euro, that was a reason to go to war with them.
Exactly. Same thing with
Libya
and all the other wars.
That's what.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Okay, we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. We're coming up here on station identification, and we'll be right back.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We're going to go back to the phones to Dustin in New Jersey. And Dustin, is it the real you?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What's on your mind today?
That's what I said. That's what I said when I called. I'm the real Dustin from New Jersey.
Okay, the real Dustin from New Jersey.
Mike, yeah, I want, like what you said in the previous caller, remember, also was the gold standard. Nixon took us off because they were running a Ponzi scheme and they handed out more dollar certificates than they had gold to back it up. So everybody who says that China's, they're ripping us off, we're the king of ripping us off. You know, like the British rip. This is all mercantile, man. This is all about business and economics. Everybody rips each other off. It's just who's better at it at this point. But you look at the gold standard, you look at we have the petrodollar, which means everything traded in with oil, the United States gets a piece of the action. We got the world's reserve currency. So we were given the world's reserve currency by the rest of the world. And in return, you know, they expect to have an honest system, but we have abused it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we have abused it, and we abused the SWIFT system. Which, if we don't like somebody, I say we as our government, they put sanctions on you. They'll block you from using the SWIFT system. I'm sorry, but then you deserve to lose the SWIFT system. You know, and if you become third world status, you know what? That's not my fault or your listener's fault. That's your government's fault for not running a legitimate business country, you know?
Yes.
So I just, Mike, some of your callers call in and they keep ripping on China. I'm sorry, but they're mercantilists. You know, I mean, business is business. Sure, they steal things. Everybody does. But, you know, things are changing, folks.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I mean, there's still no talk of the wall, Mike. There's still no, I mean, I just don't understand. Yeah, Trump is angry at Bolton, but unless I hear 3 words, mustache, you're fired, it's meaningless. You know? I mean, if you don't like somebody because they're saying, you know, he should be fired then. Trump put these people in.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
he can
Trump-
take them out.
Yeah, but he's not. Like, we are at this point with Iran and Venezuela because Trump initiated it. You know, like, this didn't initiate from, like, invisible people. This was done by Trump and elements around him. But
Yes.
Trump needs to wake up if he really and truly believes in, you know, things and fire these people. If he doesn't and John Bolton's still there, then you know what? You know, he's not telling the truth. And you know, because I'm through with Trump because it's these games. You know, like you Twitter something, the economy goes up. You Twitter something, the economy goes down. What kind of? Mike, when's the last time you ever seen a Twitter when the economy goes up and down. I mean, it's beyond I've never seen anything like it. You know, I mean, it's ludicrous. Yeah,
it is.
For a stock market to go, I mean, and you know, Mike, I was thinking, I'm like, if we do get in a war with Iran by some chance, what happens to the rest of the world who rely on getting oil from Iran? Like,
it'll be a global event. I mean, the shock, the entire global oil market will be seriously disrupted.
Mike, tens of millions of people would die because they rely on oil, and you would just throw the whole world into turmoil. I wonder if anybody actually thought about that. They haven't with John Bolton. They don't care.
No, they don't.
I mean, India gets a lot of oil from Iran.
Yes.
And Mike, with Venezuela, if they don't trade in the U.S. dollar, if they sell oil to India and in exchange buy goods and service from India, then the sanctions won't hurt them. Like if oil prices go up, they can still sell oil more than they could have previously and get products from India, right? Like the sanctions, because don't the sanctions only affect like us? Like if India's not using the dollar getting that oil, and like either using the rupee or sending products back to Venezuela, how's the U.S. going to stop that? Besides kicking them out of the SWIFT too, you know, which would mean if they kick India out of the SWIFT or issue sanctions like with Germany with Nord Stream 2, you're just alienating. You're just seriously going to isolate yourself out of the world.
It's already happening.
And I'm not a globalist, but you're going to be pushed into we'll be pushed into a corner like the one.
Dustin, are you there? I guess we lost Dustin. Okay, well, let's see. As you know, Israel and Lebanon are both claiming some 860 square kilometers, 300 square miles of the Mediterranean Sea. Lebanon hopes to basically explore the ocean floor for oil and gas production. And, you know, Israel has their idea of where the border goes in the Mediterranean Ocean. Normal common sense says it should just go straight out from the shore, but Israel is saying, no, it veers north. That's our ocean, and that's our oil and gas. Supposedly, the United States is mediating between the two countries. And I think probably the U.S. is about as unbiased.
At whatreallyhappens.com.
Okay.
And now, set your eyes on the future.
We got you back. We lost you on Berto here.
You lost me again?
Yeah, you're live now, though. We're good.
Okay. Well, we seem to be having some tech issues today. Was it a loss from my end, or did you have another computer problem?
It was a separate issue, but it was on our end.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks an awful lot. Is Dustin still on the line?
Dustin dropped.
Okay. Dustin dropped. Okay, so we're going to do a shout out now to our honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And I don't expect the United States to be neutral between Israel and Lebanon over this Mediterranean Sea area. Technically, Israel and Lebanon are in a state of war, although at least for the moment, nobody's shooting anything. But anyway, up in Poland, they have been talking about reparations from Germany for some time now because of the harm suffered during World War II. They claim that Germany owes Poland up to $1 trillion in reparations. At the same time, though, Israel has been screaming that Poland owes Jews reparations for property they lost during World War II, and Poland is saying, no, we don't. The Nazis do. The Germans do. So they're still arguing about that all over the place. Okay, we have another caller on the line. Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Before I get to what I called in about, I remember, I think it was Monday was a rebroadcast, and I heard someone actually talking about, making reference to favorite callers. I know I'm probably not one of the most favorite callers, but if I were in this for popularity, I probably wouldn't even say much. Now, that being the case, I have to kind of wonder when we look at what's happening here with Iran. You mentioned earlier the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yes.
And I sent an email out to a lot of different hosts on various networks, and I believe I sent you an email about this a few days ago, and I had actually asked the question, could we be seeing the very beginning of the stages of trying to create something very similar to the Gulf of Tonkin? And, with everything I've heard over the past few days, this just seems to solidify my suspicions that we could, in fact, be looking at what we have been talking about for so many years, the unifying factor, if you will, to get us into that long-awaited war. And it's interesting that this appears to now be targeted directly at Iran, unless we can somehow head this off. And it sets the stage here to, and I know some people are going to call me a conspiracy theorist, but I see, if we end up with some kind of strike against Iran, or whatever the case may be, and we end up with a conflict, the possibility, and I'm kind of curious what you think about this, that this could inadvertently become, for Islam, a religious, I don't know, what is the word? What do they call that? It's a crusade, but I can't remember the Arab word for it. You know
Jihad.
what I'm talking about? Jihad, that's it. What do you think are the possibilities that we could be looking at, Islamic Jihad explosion against the United States if the United States, God forbid, is this damn stupid?
It's certainly possible, and part of the problem is there are so many entities out there, such as Israel, who would love to see a holy war, crusade, jihad between Muslims and Christians all over the globe. And what would make it especially bloody is that in so many parts of the world right now, Muslims and Christians have already been blended together. They're in close proximity with each other. We're already seeing incidents of violence directed against Muslims and Christians all over Europe and the United States.
Yeah, and see, this is exactly the point I was making was, heaven forbid, granted, in my area, we don't have a Muslim population to speak of in my area. We're a very small, community-oriented, in fact, my hometown, you can't even find it on a map, and we have to use the police and the sheriff from the next town over if we have a problem, because we don't even have a police department. We're that small. We actually use the next county over as a mailing address. We're that small of a community. So here, and this is not me, but the majority of the people that live around me, and people need to understand about 80% of the people who live around me are all family.
Yeah.
Okay? This is a family. We're talking serious, down home, country, Georgia.
It's like the town I grew up in.
And everybody is related to everybody. Everybody knows everybody. And the people here in my area, for many years, they looked at me like I was the quack job. And now they're looking around and they're expressing concern. And when the deep South, back home, hillbilly redneck starts getting worried, somebody done woke somebody up.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at here in Northeast Georgia right now. We are beginning to see the awakening. I have prayed for this for so many years, that the people in my counties would wake up, and all of a sudden, people around me are starting to talk. And we're talking back road, hillbilly, redneck Georgia here. We're not talking about Augusta or Athens or Milledgeville or, Greensboro or any of those towns. We're talking about a town that doesn't even exist on the maps.
Well, it's good to hear that it's happening, and I think people have known something was going wrong all along, but they refrained from talking out of a misplaced sense of patriotism or politeness, or they were concerned that, they might look like a conspiracy wacko to their friends and neighbors. And when I first started doing this a quarter of a century ago, I got that a lot. What do you mean Vince Foster was murdered? How could such a thing happen? What do you mean the government lies us into wars? These days, I've had so many people come on back and say, we thought you were a nut, but everything that you have said over the years turned out to be true.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't understand is when you deal with an area like where I live, where, literally, everybody here is my relation. I would have to go 3 counties away just to even think about finding a girlfriend, okay? That's how thick-related I am in this area. My family did a family reunion back in 1978, and we took up Clark Hill Lake. We took up that park. That's how big a family I have. And, I have always been the only one in my family that I know of who's ever talked about these kind of things. And everybody, my mom, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, my cousins who live right next door, people I went to school with are right next door here. Some of my childhood friends live right next door. I'm out in the county. I own my own land out in the county. And we kind of get away with little things that you couldn't get away with in town.
Yeah.
But these people are now seeing that everything that I've been talking about for 20 years is real. And it's amazing. Mike, I'm telling you, for anybody who is for anyone who is, and I really hate the word awake. I prefer the word aware.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyone who is aware of what's going on, and to go for 20 years feeling like you're the only one, and no one can seem, everybody, your ex fishing buddies think you're a nut job, and all of a sudden everybody's coming to you thinking, and they're like, holy crap, dude, you were right, and to actually watch your hometown awaken,
yes,
is amazing. And I think the only reason why I woke up like I did was because of the 30-plus years that I lived homeless, traveling the country and meeting all kinds of different people from all the different walks of life, right down to rainbow hippies, doing rainbow gatherings every year, to doing Dead Tour. I did Dead Tour for several years. Many years of doing the homeless thing and meeting all different kinds of people have given me this really unique perspective on life. And now that I'm here at home with my own land, taking over the family property and watching the people around me, finally, the lights are, I'm seeing the front porch lights turning on, and it is absolutely amazing to witness this. There is a new awakening in the country towns of America, and I think maybe if we can keep that spark, we can actually make some changes.
Well, that's why I keep exhorting our listeners and readers to say, share everything that you learn with other people around you. And you can't be afraid of looking bad or looking silly or being seen as some kind of a kook. It's that important. And you might be surprised. The other person might say, gee, I was thinking the same things and I thought I was the only one. So, you may have been living in a village where everybody was concerned, but nobody spoke out because they thought they were the only one. Now they're realizing, no, they're not alone, that everybody is sharing this stuff. We find that as we go about our daily life here, because we're not shy about talking about these things and the potential for war. And yeah, pretty much everybody we talk to, they're on board. They know what's going on. Maybe not to the detail that we do, of course. That would be unrealistic. But they're definitely concerned about how things are transpiring. They're concerned about the economy. They're concerned certainly about all the wars, and especially on this island, which has a high per capita military. Yeah, they're very sensitive to the idea of more wars. Anyway, listen, Art, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System,
Okay, I'm not getting any sound from RBN. So, oh, there we are. All right. Boy, the gremlins are really gremlining today. Okay. So, Okay. Yeah, the gremlins are gremlining. Now, there has been a Saudi diplomatic memo was obtained by Lebanese outlet Al Ahad News, and it claims that the government of Saudi Arabia, at the very least, had foreknowledge of the Easter bombings that occurred last month in Sri Lanka, killing nearly 300 and wounding over 500 more. The contents of the memo additionally suggest the Saudis were complicit in the attacks, and they're supported by the connections recently uncovered by Sri Lankan authorities that the alleged ringleader of the bombings, Zahran Hashim, had ties to Saudi Arabia. So, anyway, speaking of Saudi Arabia, South Korea, not North Korea, South Korea, plans to set up a joint nuclear energy research center in Saudi Arabia. And the plan is to boost cooperation between the two countries in the field of nuclear energy research and development. And they're expected to sign an agreement after various administrative procedures have been completed. Okay, now here's an interesting story. One of the things that you'll probably want to look at when you're playing with Google Earth, and by the way, I love Google Earth. I mean, the photos may be hideously outdated. And I started playing with it all the way back before it got acquired by Google, when it went by the name Keyhole, which was kind of a giveaway where it all came from. And for somebody who studied geology and loves history, it's a lot of fun. It really is. What a great teaching tool. So anyway, one of the things that you might want to look out is out in Arizona at the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. It's called the Boneyard, and it is this huge expanse of ground on which all of these retired aircraft are stored. And some are stored in working order. Others are being cannibalized for parts. But it is amazing to see it just goes on and on and on. Well, apparently, for only the second time in U.S. Air Force history, they have brought back a B-52H Stratofortress bomber out of the Boneyard and delivered it to an operational unit. The aircraft's name is Wise Guy, and it touched down at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, where it's going to join the 307th Bomb Wing, which is the only bomb wing in the Air Force Reserve. So great, if they can reuse those planes, that means they're not spending the money to build new ones. We could save a little money there. Okay. The Navy is pushing ahead with their project for medium and large unmanned surface vehicles. And they want to get to the stage where they can prototype it so they can experiment with the vessels, make sure that they're working, good luck on that one, and get them fielded to fleet commanders. And apparently these are these robotic ships. They're called the Medium Unmanned Surface Vehicle, or MUSV, and the Large Unmanned Surface Vehicle, LUSV, both of which are planned to be part of the Future Service Combatant family of systems. They expect to field them in the mid-2020s. But they've tried to accelerate it to fiscal year 2019 and 2020 acquisition dates. Now, obviously, the plan here is that if you're in a naval surface engagement, that you can send these robotic ships in to fight the fight without risk to human life, which for the Navy sailors, I'm sure that's a really good thing. The key issue is whether they're really going to work, whether they can be jammed, whether they can be hacked. And again, one of my concerns about modern warfare is the over-reliance on computers, which sometimes do not work. It was a computer error that led the USS Vincennes to shoot down that Iranian passenger jet. And as far as I can tell, it was a computer error that led to the shoot down of TWA 800. And as always, these things are going to be very expensive. And it could be as much of a boondoggle as the Freedom and Independence class littoral combat ships, which did so poorly and had so many problems. The Navy is just going to start all over and come up with some new littoral combat ships. But it's not like they're spending their own money, you know? All right, we're going to take another break for commercials here. When we come back, we're going to be talking about our domestic politics. There's a lot going on.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. So we're going to talk about the domestic politics and corruption that's going on. And we're starting to see that inner circle from 2016 turn on each other, which I think is a good thing. Anyway, Obama's intelligence chiefs Brennan and Clapper are now claiming they told James Comey not to use the Steele dossier to apply for the FISA warrant. And they're now saying that James Comey was the one who was pushing to use this dossier with all of its salacious details or claims. And so there's a little split that's happening there. Apparently, senior FBI officials were concerned that then Director James Comey might look to be trying to blackmail President-elect Trump with this dossier. And of course, that brought back some of the tactics used by J. Edgar Hoover. But apparently when Comey attended a meeting on January 6, 2017, he informed Trump about allegations he had consorted with prostitutes in Mexico. And a lot of people said it sort of brings back the memories of J. Edgar Hoover, who successfully blackmailed President John F. Kennedy with much the same thing. Meanwhile, there is a big dispute that has erupted over whether it was James Comey or John Brennan pushing that dossier. Well, Brennan's now denying it, but they're starting to eat their own. They know there's a big investigation coming. There's a real investigator, and they could be in trouble. All right, let's take a phone call. Jim in Illinois. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. I don't know if you saw this in the paper today where the White House stated no cargo flights or passenger flights are allowed to enter America coming from Venezuela and vice versa. No flights are allowed to go down to Venezuela.
Yes.
Yeah. And also in the same article, it stated that in Cuba and other Caribbean islands, they are beginning to ration foods due to the fact a lot of things from Venezuela that they were receiving are not allowed to come to their islands anymore.
Yes.
So
this whole thing is causing a lot of damage all around the Caribbean.
Right, and you know it's going to hurt tourism.
Of course, it's going to hurt tourism.
So, do you have any idea what this White House wants to do eventually? If they can't invade Venezuela, they just want to starve people.
Well, that may be part of the tactic here. Prior to invading, they always like to find some way to put economic pressure and get the people hungry, force the government to spend money on supporting their population instead of building up the military. They've been doing it with Iran for a lot of years. They did it to Iraq for many years before that invasion. It's just part of the plan. But yes, this adventurism in Venezuela, it's going to cause a lot of harm to countries around the Caribbean with which we supposedly are not hostile to.
Right. Well, Michael, that's basically it. You take care.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. So we're talking about our domestic politics, and we're talking about eating their own. And over at Russia Insider, they have a headline that says, a circular firing squad is forming. Comey, Rosenstein, Brennan, Clapper all start attacking each other. And they're accusing each other of criminal acts. Now, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page are blaming Loretta Lynch for the rigging of the Hillary investigation and her server and obstruction of justice. Bruce Orr is now blaming the Department of Justice and the FBI officials for ignoring his warning about Christopher Steele and the dossier. Fired FBI Chief James Comey is bashing Strzok, Page, and Rod Rosenstein on national TV. Rod Rosenstein is firing back on Comey. So this is it. The cartel is starting to break up. They know there's a real investigation coming, and they're probably going to want to be the first to make a deal. Over at Judicial Watch, they've released 4 pages of documents from the U.S. Department of Justice showing a conversation between former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs, Kathleen Kavalak, and former Associate Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr discussing the targeting of Donald Trump with Steele dossier material. In discussing a meeting with a potential source for a Mother Jones article accusing the Trump campaign of taking money from a Russian oil magnate, as well as Christopher Steele's connection to that source, Kavalek emails Orr citing the accusatory Mother Jones article. Orr says, "Oh, I really hope we can get something going here." Judicial Watch is doing such excellent works over there. All right, well, a really big skeleton has fallen out of Mueller's closet, and it's being brought up because William Barr has chosen John Durham to be in charge of the investigation about how all of this came up. And I think this John Durham is the real deal, because apparently Robert Mueller and John Durham sort of collided with each other up in Massachusetts during that whole Whitey Bulger case. And apparently Robert Mueller, was protecting Whitey Bulger. He was protecting this gangster so he could use him as an informant. But Durham did not sign with Mueller, and Mueller's agents suffered the consequences of Mueller's corrupt leadership, ultimately. So they are definitely not friends. That Whitey Bulger case is one of the biggest stains in U.S. law enforcement history. They protected this gangster, even while he was killing people. They protected him from arrest so they could use him as an informant. Representative Jim Jordan, House Oversight and Reform ranking member, has called out Representative Elijah Cummings, the chairman, by sending him a letter demanding the release of a non-public memo that he and Representative Mad Maxine Waters wrote up in regards to their strategy to go after President Trump. Now, that takes a lot of spine to do. And Jordan looks to be that person. He strongly urged Cummings to release the secret memorandum with Waters to shed light on both using congressional oversight to go after the Trump administration. They wanted to weaponize congressional oversight. And it looks like Cummings and Waters were conspiring, or if you are a Democrat, colluding, to subvert the president in coordinated attacks. This may be illegal. They should face charges for that. I don't care if you like Donald Trump or you don't. And right now, you have to put me in the category of very disappointed, no longer reading his tweets. But he is the elected president. He won an election despite heavy rigging and fraud by the opposition, and good or bad, until he commits a high crime or misdemeanor that he can legitimately be removed from office for. This kind of gameplay, these people far exceeded their lawful authority. We got to get the system back on track again. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, most of what she says just comes and goes. But she made a good point yesterday to a Congressional Oversight Committee hearing. And the issue was, of course, her comment, how are we going to pay for it? Talking about some of the socialist agenda out there. And she came on in and said the Green New Deal and Medicare for all can be paid for if we just stop all the excess spending and profits for defense contractors. And as one example, she brought out what's called a non-vehicular clutch disc. They cost $32 to manufacture. The Pentagon pays $1,443 each. That's a 4,000% profit. And I have to agree with AOC. That's obscene. And she asked the Pentagon contractor.
I'm going to drop the ball really quick.
I'm sorry, what? Are we going on the air? Well, I'm going to assume that I'm live and just continue because we still have the YouTube video running. And so AOC asked the contractor, Transdigm CEO Kevin Stein, are you aware how many doses of insulin we could get for that, especially if we drive up over the border into Canada? And it's a valid point. Military spending is a joke, and I got to see it up close and personal myself at various points in my career. And it is a racket, just like Smedley Butler said it is. There used to be a member of Congress had his Golden Fleece Award, would come on in and say, there are these very inexpensive to provide supplies and equipment that the Pentagon is just paying huge amounts of money for. That's why everybody wants to get into defense contracting. It's a hugely profitable business. Now, a lot of people point to the U.S. military budget and say that's what guarantees our supremacy over other countries. Maybe, maybe not. Article from Russia Insider on how Moscow gets more bang for its buck than the bloated Pentagon. And it says before you start taking Russia's military spending, which is much less than the U.S., and the U.S. military spending, then you have to figure out how much are they getting for that money. And it looks like Russia's military procurement is much more efficient, much more cost effective. Certainly you can't say efficient and cost effective in the case of the United States. And so we might find that Russia's military force, and for that matter China, are actually more on a par. Now, the other part where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is running a little off the rails is this sudden explosion of the abortion debate. She's out there saying abortion bans are a brutal form of oppression designed to control women's sexuality. And this was in the wake of Alabama's near total abortion ban that could see doctors who perform abortions face 99 years in prison. I would agree that that may be okay. Okay, let me see if I can get us hooked back in. Okay, we're having some technical issues here. And hopefully we'll reconnect. Okay, there we are. And I think we're back live on the air. Nope. Okay, we're having some serious problems today. Yeah, the gremlins are definitely striking again today. All right, well, it's at their end, and I'm getting the emails from people. RBN is off. Anyway, we're talking about the new debate on abortion, which it's been kicked off by that bill in Alabama. There are the other abortion bills that are saying 6 weeks detection of the first heartbeat, 8 weeks, and of course the pro-abortionists are out there saying no, you can abort right up to the moment of birth. So this is just another place where the American people can argue with each other and not pay attention to what the government is doing. So as I understand it, there are now 36 states that are looking at some form of limitations on abortion, and they're already saying that it's probably going to go all the way back up to the Supreme Court and could, in fact, overturn Roe v. Wade. And let's see if I can get this to work. Nope. It looks like my connection to RBN is down. So we're not going to be able to do any more phone calls. Okay. So anyway, Republican Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia has... Okay, hang on. I got to take this phone call. This is Michael. Well, I'm going to keep trying to get back on from this end, and I'm going to keep on doing my show for the YouTube audience. So, yeah, bad day in the tech world.
Did you want to go on by phone in the meantime, or you just want me to play some music while we wait?
Yeah, just play some music while we wait, because I'm continuing the show here for... it's very difficult for me to do the show by phone. Oh, actually, I changed my mind on that. Let me get my cell phone from the other room, because I'm talking on my watch right now, and we'll do the show over the phone. All right. Let's see. No, I'm on the line now. Let me just. I switched it over. No, actually, I could use a break. I'll be right back. Okay. we could see with the conservative court that we have there, with Trump's appointment of Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, they could overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, my own position on abortion is very gray, partly because I've had a personal experience that involved that. I understand there are circumstances in which abortion is absolutely, absolutely necessary. What I have a problem with is women who just want to use it as retroactive birth control, when there's plenty of other birth control that's out there. So anyway, we have Joy Behar is out there. She's co-host of The View and was out there screaming that the white guys who vote to restrict abortion should be sterilized. And they're making a big deal about the fact that down in Alabama, their legislature is all white guys there. And they're sort of ignoring the fact that it was Republican Governor Kay Ivey who signed the bill into law. And she's very much a woman. So anyway, now this story I think is a little bit upsetting. I've been talking a lot about the terrible state our voting system is in. And so I'm looking at this story, which came out of Blacklisted News, and apparently the FBI has been investigating Florida elections, and they're informing the governor of Florida about it. But they're saying, you can't tell the people what we found. So apparently there are federal agencies investigating election interference, but they're trying to basically hide it from the voters. They're trying to maintain the illusion that the election system is honest, when we already know that it isn't. Okay, let's try and switch back over to the Verdo, because I got it back up here at this end.
Hey, Mike, how am I coming through for you?
You're coming through for me right now. You're clear, crystal clear.
Yeah, you're coming through clear as well. Hopefully it holds.
Yeah. Okay, I hope so too.
Okay. Coming back live in about a minute.
Oh, you just started garbling. Can you give me a quick count?
Yeah, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, there's a little distortion here. Where do you think the packet loss is coming from?
I'm not sure. It sounds fine when we go through the monitors, except for these. I mean, it's not the regular garbled mess we were having the other day. I think it may be a different issue.
All right, I'm going to hit down detector and see what's going on with Spectrum.
We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima is going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. And it looks like what's going on is somewhere between here in Hawaii and Round Rock, Texas. There's a lot of packet loss in both directions, and it's causing us some serious problems. And as you all know, it's one of the reasons why Claire and I are going to be moving to the U.S. mainland sometime this this fall as soon as we can come up with the money to do that. All right, so getting on back to the news, and the phones are now open, 800-313-9443. So for those of you who are struggling to listen, I'm going to backtrack on this one story. And apparently there are agencies of the government that are looking into the issue of election hacking and election fraud. But the state officials are being told that they're not allowed to pass this information on to those of us who are affected the most, which are the voters. They're trying to maintain the illusion that we can trust the elections. And as we saw in 2016 especially, we know for a fact that we cannot. Okay. Fox News is running one of their little polls saying that, yes, Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump if the election was held today. Well, the election is not being held today. The election is still quite a ways off. And anyway, story coming on out. Apparently, it broke last Friday. And apparently, this came from NewsGuard and then was repeated by Investment Watch blog, where it looks like Barack Obama accepted at least $21 million in foreign campaign donations for the 2012 re-election. And that, of course, is just flat out illegal. So, and of course, the corporate media is not reporting that one either. Speaking of the corporate media, Russia Today ran an interesting little article about a study released by the RAND Corporation. Now, the RAND Corporation is this well-known think tank. They go back decades, and corporations and the government rely on them to basically study issues, study problems, come up with potential solution. And RAND basically came out with this study on U.S. news media confirming what we all know. U.S. corporate news media, they've shifted toward advocacy and emotional appeals. And this is helping to sow discord in American society. So in the good old days, news content was event and context-based reporting. These are the facts. Today, coverage is subjective, relies heavy on argumentation and advocacy, and includes more emotional appeals. In other words, it's gone tabloid. And apparently they're seeing it both in the TV and the print news. RAND Corporation called it truth decay. Good term. A shift away from facts and analysis in public discourse. All right, so let's talk about the economic news here. Steve Bannon is out there saying there is no chance Trump is going to back down on the China trade war. And of course, Steve is out there saying China's been running an economic war against the industrial democracies for 20 years. Well, Steve, that's not exactly what happened. China just got very good at doing what it does, which is manufacturing. When the United States was the manufacturing powerhouse for the world, especially in the post-World War II years, nobody said we were waging economic war on the rest of the world because they had to come buy their products from us. Speaking of buying products, there's this interesting little article that came out from Government Slaves saying that the tariffs are going to be paid for by ordinary consumers and not just for imported goods, because apparently the few domestic manufacturers that we have in this country are seeing an opportunity. Their competition's products are now more expensive. So what are they going to do? Raise the price on the domestically produced products. So the prices are going to be pretty much the same when you go into the store. I think that's taking unfair advantage of the situation. But again, it's more money out of your pockets. The Central Bank of Russia reports that foreign exchange reserves saw a significant boost of nearly $3.3 billion in April. And Russia is pursuing a policy of increasing its forex funds and diversifying away from the U.S. dollar. So they're boosting their gold reserves. They're dumping the dollar. A lot of countries are starting to do that. Okay. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Story coming out of Investment Watchblog again. Precious metals are setting up for a major rally while the broader markets are primed for a crash. Maybe, maybe not. After that big dump we had earlier in the week on the markets, we've had a couple of really good days. The stock market ended up again. The Dow was up, I think, something like close to 200. Is that real economic activity, or is it more manipulation? Another article, this one out of Your Destination Now, basically saying that Trump's tariffs are equivalent to one of the largest tax increases in decades. And maybe that's part of the agenda and why Trump doesn't want to back down. He had his tax plan last year that primarily benefited the wealthy. Middle-class Americans are upset. The government is hopelessly in debt and driving into debt even faster. Maybe this is just another way to extract more money from the American people. There's only one small problem with that. The American people, driven down to lower wages and salaries, don't have the money to pay for the tariffs. People are just going to start doing without, is what's going to happen. Now, one of the casualties of the trade war are soybeans. Soybean futures fell 25% in 50 weeks since the inception of President Trump's trade war last summer. China consumes a lot of soybeans, and they used to buy a lot of them from here in the United States, but apparently no more. Right now, at this time of year, only 30% of U.S. cornfields have been planted. Normally at this time of year, it's 66%. And that's because of all that massive flooding, I guess. That's where that's coming from. And as if we were not in enough economic trouble and annoying the rest of the world all that much, the United States is now threatening the European Union with a trade war over weapons. And what's going on is the European Union wants to boost cooperation between member states on military spending. In other words, they want the European Union member states to spend their military budget in the other member states. And the United States doesn't like that because they've gotten used to the idea that Europe bought most of their weapons from right here in the United States of America. Germany has responded rather harshly, saying that, they're acting as if Germany is a U.S. colony. This is in response to the Russia sanctions. So Bundestag Energy and Economy Chief Klaus Ernst of Die Linke Party accused the U.S. of behaving as if Germany is its colony, as Washington tries to bully Europeans not to buy Russian gas. And he said those measures don't only target Russians, they deliberately target Europeans. For example, the German energy companies involved in Nord Stream 2. Boy, the U.S. government is just making enemies of everybody. All right, the other day I saw this interesting documentary. It was called The Future of Work. And it was talking about how automation is displacing humans in the workplace. And they showed Amazon how that works, where the inventory is basically on these large robotic rolling shelves, if you will. And they're literally rolling up to where the packers are working. And they said, well, the reason we still have humans here is because nobody's come out with a finger that can go in, just grab the one product quickly and bring it back on out. Well, that appears to be about to change because Amazon is now rolling out automated packing machines that are 5 times faster than humans. I cannot tell you how insane this is. We are rushing to a world where we're going to have factories full of robots making products that go to shopping malls full of robot salespeople that just stand there with nothing to do because the humans don't have money to buy anything. It just doesn't make any sense here. Anyway, retail sales and industrial production slumped last month. We're going to take a phone call now. Mur in Wisconsin. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Me again. Germany is a vassal state of the U.S. until 2099. I'll send you that link. Also, you know how we talk about Wes Clark? His last name is really Khan, K-A-N-N-E, Ashkenazi. And he nearly started World War III at least once. And I'll send you that information, too, when he was SAC, Supreme Allied Commander over Europe and NATO in Balkans.
Yes.
And I don't know if you can play this one video. I'll send it to you. You can see it. It's very good, but it might have copyright. You might be able to play part of it, but it's called No Bravery. And James Blount was what he was also called. He was a captain back then.
Yes.
And he was the one that was given the orders. Okay, he was British captain. And he was going to refuse it, but his next higher up, Mike Jackson, refused the orders of Clark, Khan, whatever.
Yes.
That said to destroy these 200 Russians that had gotten to the airport before them and were holding it. And they decided to wait it out. They thought it might be a couple days. I think it ended up being a couple weeks, but then they did work with the Russians. So there we go.
Okay.
You know, and it's the same thing right now, really, with Iran. These are false flags, and somebody's spilling the beans. Maybe you saw in Jim Stone, it was covered a couple places, but on Sunday, the 12th of all times, right, in the morning, about 5 hours before, I guess, the actual hit was to take place, somebody said they saw American and French planes over this United Arab Emirates port.
Yeah,
And
well, that
you
came
wouldn't
from
be
a
able to
single
see-
source, which I'm starting to think may have been, fake news. And we always have to be very careful about those kind of things.
I think it was trying to spill the beans to prevent something getting kicked off. And then
It may be because, I would have thought there would have been a much stronger, more immediate reaction to the attack on those oil tankers. I'm getting a strong sense that there is, in fact, a major faction fight inside the administration over whether to start a war with Iran or not.
Well, I think Trump is kind of playing it like he did before with North Korea and with Putin. He'll say all kind of stuff, and he'll let his little guys that want to have war go out and say what they want to say, and then he'll tweet the opposite, and then he'll go meet the people in person and kind of diffuses the situation. So hopefully that's what's going on. But these divers supposedly could carry all this stuff out there and set the charges? I don't think so.
Well, there are alternatives, of course, and that would have to do with some military hardware that would involve submarines with detachable miniature submarines for SEALs team members. And they do exist and they are being used. Or the limpets could have been applied the last time the ships were in port and then detonated by radio control.
Well, you'd think they would detect some of this stuff. They have ability to do that too, So
Well, especially since the damage was done above the water line, whatever was put on there had to be visible.
Right. So, it sounds awful hokey. And you never know with the news because they're constantly trying to drum something up. They're not real happy with something about to go down, whether it be a money change or whatever. They're sure not happy about it.
Yeah, well, they're really pushing for the war. Anyway, Murrah, we're going to let you go and get back to the news. I'm running behind on my talking points. The phone lines are open. Getting on back to the economic news, global investment in coal has tumbled by 75% over the last 3 years. And apparently more coal power stations around the world came offline last year than were approved for construction. And a lot of that probably is lobbying from all the global warming people. But they're saying dependence on coal remains high. with coal-fired power plants currently fueling around 38% of global electricity. But they are saying coal is in decline. Hopefully, we're going to start getting something to replace coal and oil, something that doesn't leave nuclear waste behind. By the way, HBO is running a mini-series about Chernobyl, and it's very dark, but it feels very, very real. Romina Boccia is out there saying that adopting socialist policies would make average American $24,000 poorer. Yes, it definitely would. This one is a little scary. Washington, D.C. is going to turn private citizens into ticket vigilantes. So they're getting ready to pass this bill. B230288 would allow 80 citizens, 10 in each of the 8 wards of the District of Columbia, to basically hand out parking tickets and citations. And it's just another way to grab cash. And apparently there is several cities already doing this. So if you think you had problems with your neighbors before, just wait till they can write you a ticket. All right, turning now down to the border. Hundreds of TSA security ops have been deployed to the southern border for, quote, an immediate need, end quote. As many as 400 people are going to be sent to the border trying to deal with the flood of migrants which are overwhelming the current resources. Now remember, Yale and MIT did their own study, and they said there are 22 million illegal immigrants inside the United States of America. Usually the media says it's 11 million. The Yale MIT study said no, it's actually double that. They actually came out with a range. Could be as low as 16 million, could be as high as 29 million. And these are people who should not be working in our economy, should not be here at all. And they're bringing in drugs, they're engaging in human trafficking, they're bringing in highly contagious diseases. And we need to get the word out about it, because apparently the Harvard-Harris poll went on out and surveyed Americans, asking them how much they know about the illegal immigration problem. And only about 13% answered correctly. 76% of Americans are unaware of just how bad the problem is. There were nearly 100,000 border apprehensions last month alone. And that puts illegal immigration at the southern border on track to outpace every year of illegal immigration under former President Obama and take the U.S. back to Bush-era levels. So as you go on out and you share what you learn here at Republic Broadcasting with your friends, say, do you understand how many illegal immigrants are flooding into this country? It's not a trickle. It's a tsunami. Anyway, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and so far it looks like the Gremlins have gone on someplace else. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha America, welcome back to our show. We're talking about immigration, and the U.S. military is going to build 6 tent cities near the border to house 7,500 migrants. And apparently the Department of Homeland Security made the request, and Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan is expected to sign the request. Now, the tents will not be on military bases, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, not the military, will be responsible for migrant detention and custodial support. Well, that's a drop in the bucket. You've got 22 million illegals loose in the country. 7,500? We have to start rounding these people up and just fling them back across the border. They're not our problem. Over in Scotland, the Brexit Party is now in second place in the polls. And this is a dramatic blow to Nicola Sturgeon's claim that Scots oppose Brexit. I'm expecting we're going to see a new independence referendum over there soon. So let's talk a little bit about Boeing, and it is starting to look worse and worse for that company in that in the name of cutting costs for themselves and for their customers, a lot of decisions were being made. And in this particular one, it had to do with the transition from the older 737 models to the MAX 8, and it had to do with the training. And training comes in several levels. Level D training is the big flight simulators, where these are about $15 million each, and pilots are required to train hundreds of hours on the simulators before they're allowed to enter the real cockpit. And then they have to retrain on them every 6 months to maintain their qualification. So in order to cut down training time and reduce costs, Boeing claimed the changes it made to the cockpit required only level B training, which could be done in an hour on a tablet. And this is probably the reason why those pilots were unaware of that switch that would have been able to disable that MCAS system that kept pitching them up and stalling those airplanes. I think Boeing's in a lot of trouble on this one. I mean, flying an airplane is serious, serious business. And there's a reason pilots are type certified in those simulators. And they literally fly them hundreds of hours before they're allowed into the real airplane. Over at Tesla, they're now saying that the recent spate of cars exploding spontaneously while they're being charged had to do with the software. And they've now issued a software update they say will prevent cars from randomly bursting into flames. And I certainly hope it works. I really, really do. Over in Mason, Ohio, a high school has decided they're going to eliminate valedictorian and salutatorian honors to help the mental wellness of the other students. In other words, we're not going to reward the achievers. We're going to disincentivize achievement in our kids. The school is also going to begin classes 30 minutes later next year and is also considering reducing the amount of homework after school and during summer school. Now, that's not real world. If the purpose of education is to get these kids ready to go on out and either go to college or join the workforce, they're not going to find bosses that are that accommodating. Their bosses are going to want results. They're going to want these kids to do as well as they can. A lot of people are still talking about this WhatsApp hack, and the predictions are that hundreds of millions of cell phones have been compromised. They're describing it as having the hallmarks of a private company known to work with governments to deliver spyware that reportedly takes over the functions of mobile phone operating systems. Now, somebody needs to come out with a tool, to put on the phone to say, is it there or not? I know there's some antivirus, anti-malware apps out there, but this is serious business. Meanwhile, yesterday, Trump signed an executive order. He declared a national emergency over technology designed or produced by foreign adversaries. And so Trump has banned Huawei and these other adversaries from U.S. telecoms. This is protectionism. Trump is saying it's national security. They can spy on us with that, and that's the U.S. job to do that. But I think it's just protectionism. All right, we got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about computers. And interesting little story. Apparently, American adults are spending enormous amounts of money playing video games, mostly on smartphones. And we've all seen the TV commercials for, build your own empire and all the rest of that, which building an empire, I think, is better than let's go blow something up, but there's enough of those games as well. But apparently last year, a staggering $43 billion was spent on games, mostly on content, mostly on the pay-to-play games like Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, and NBA 2K19. So games are an important part of our society now. They're making more money than the movies are. And I don't know how healthy that is for us. Generally, I don't play computer games. The only computer games I have are flight simulators, and lately I haven't even gotten into them all that much because no way will they make me fly that 737 MAX 8. Okay, the White House has rolled out a new website for people to report when they are being censored by Silicon Valley tech giants. And it's wh.gov/techbias. And you log in there and it asks for the information, what you were trying to do. I think it's a whipping post. I don't think they're going to do anything. We know it's going on. And it just says basically, if you suspect political bias has caused such an action to be taken against you, share your story with President Trump. Now, this was good news to Gab.com, which is an alternative to Twitter. And they're out there encouraging all of their users to log in, to give them a set of data. But I'm not seeing where they plan on doing anything with it. All right, this is going to anger a lot of people. Apparently, Adobe has come on out and saying that customers using an older version of Photoshop may be sued if they continue, even though they paid for the software. Now, in the good old days of computers, when you went on down to the computer store and you bought software and you got that little disc, it was yours. That was it. And then at the high-end commercial areas like film production, they got into the idea of software licensing, where you paid a fee every year to continue to use the software. And now that's being brought down to the consumer level. So Adobe basically just came on out, and as far as I can tell, they're going to all those people who hold perpetual licenses for older cuts of Photoshop and saying, you're no longer licensed to use them. So apparently this affects older versions of Creative Cloud applications. And it's caused a certain amount of outrage. And it's just Adobe, once again, forcing people to buy software they already have. Apparently, hackers compromised the script used by Best of the Web to display their trust seal on their customers' websites and to add 2 key logging scripts designed to sniff keystrokes from visitors. And apparently, researcher William DeGroot said the security seal as sold by Best of the Web contains even 2 different keystroke loggers. One was added April 24th, the other last week. And after DeGroot disclosed his discovery to Best of the Web, the company confirmed that their Trust Seal script, which was hosted on Amazon's content delivery network, was indeed hacked. Now they're taking steps to fix the issue. Meanwhile, over at Forbes' subscription website, hackers injected a MageCart script that collects payment card data customers introduce on the checkout page and sends it to a server controlled by the attackers. This is coming from Bad Packets Report co-founder Troy Mersch. The script collects card numbers, expiration dates, and the credit card CVV, CVC verification codes, as well as the customers' names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails. So if you subscribe to Forbes, you better check that credit card statement. It really is just a mess. Over at Bayer, I imagine they're having buyer's remorse because they've discovered Monsanto has been running a black ops division. And they were building and maintaining lists of journalists, lawmakers, and regulators to be, quote unquote, taken out if they opposed GMOs or glyphosate. Any influential person who opposed the Monsanto agenda was subjected to attempted bribery, death threats and intimidation, character assassination through well-funded negative PR campaigns, defamation via coordinated Wikipedia attacks run by Monsanto operatives, career destruction such as getting scientists blacklisted from science journals, being doxxed, having your address publicized, and families and co-workers threatened. And they've been running this Black Ops division for over 10 years, spending perhaps $100 million or more on efforts to silence, destroy, or assassinate anyone who interfered with the agricultural giants' market dominance. And I'm going to wager they're probably not the only ones who were doing that. Over in the Congo, they have now declared that the Ebola epidemic is out of control. It's being described as terrifying. Pardon me. Figures from the World Health Organization show more than 1,600 people infected, over 1,000 deaths, That's basically a 2/3 mortality rate. And they can't encircle it. They can't basically get ahead of the carriers. Again, there's a lot of conflict in the region. People are moving around a lot. So they're describing the virus as out of control. We've been talking a lot about American pharmaceutical companies who are being accused of pushing opioids. You know, bribing doctors to prescribe them, things like that. Well, it's not a U.S. phenomenon anymore because apparently Canadian drug makers have been hit with a $1.1 billion lawsuit for promoting opioids despite the risks. And this is a class action lawsuit. It was filed yesterday in the Ontario Superior Court, and it names some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the country, such as Apotex, Bristol Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, and the Gene Cotu Group. So the lawsuit was filed on behalf of patients who became addicted to prescribed opioids. And apparently this goes back to the 1990s. Okay, out in California, it may be May, but parts of California are still looking like a scene out of winter. They've had a series of storms bringing several feet of snow to the mountain areas. There's a significant severe weather threat across the nation's midsection. They've issued a storm warning that will run through tomorrow morning for the southern Sierra Nevada. Gosh darn that human-caused global warming. Over in Europe, they're okay. I'm being told that I need to call in. The sound isn't clearing up. Hang on just a second. Let me try something here. Okay, test. Is it any better now? Is it any better?
It's still really glitchy.
I couldn't hear that. Is it any better?
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, let me get the phone and call in for the rest of the show. Okay, so... Yeah, this is Mike. Okay. Okay, and yeah, I'm seeing at my end on the Verdo it's saying waiting for server reconnection. So apparently it's saying that the server just isn't there. All right, this has been a bad gremlin day here. So we're talking about human-caused global warming, and they're talking about over in Europe that the petroleum phase-out planners have been, pushing this catastrophic anthropogenic global warming hypothesis, and it's leading to a situation where the European auto industry is really suffering, and it may have reached a turning point where if all of this electric vehicle stuff doesn't work out, trying to turn back is going to be very, very difficult. Okay, and let's see. Well, I was able to successfully reconnect to Verdo. Are you hearing me on that? Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to using the headset.
Okay, you're back on Verdo.
Okay, I'm back on Verdo. All right, good. And you sounded good to me. Let's hopefully this is something that's going to clear up in the next day or two. Apparently, over in Dallas at the Catholic Diocese, the police have executed a search warrant at the diocese headquarters, a storage unit, and the offices of a church. And apparently, this is to acquire evidence of sexual misconduct. Apparently, it's just this huge, huge problem. So let's talk about Notre Dame Cathedral. It was a tragedy when it caught fire and the roof and the spire burned off. And there are two schools of thought. Now, France owns the building, not the church. So France is going to decide what they're going to do. And the two schools of thought, one is a new modern design, all glass and steel roof with plants up there, and it's going to be beautifully lit. The other school of thought is put it back exactly the way that it was. And we're back to glitching already. Okay. This is really... You know what's funny is my YouTube feed has been absolutely fine all day. So I don't know what's going on here. So they want... there's people in France who want Notre Dame put back the way it was. But it was built 800 years ago. And they're saying, where do we find people who know how to do this? Not just a modern recreation, but just make it right. Well, it turns out over in the town of Guédelon in Burgundy, there is a pool of these skilled artisans because they are building a 13th century castle using medieval tools, designs, and techniques. So I think that would be rather cool. Of course, I can imagine the debate on just how Notre Dame is going to be restored is going to go on for a long time. Over in Luxembourg, they have decided, or they've agreed rather last Friday, to work more closely on projects in space, including research and exploration, as well as defense and commerce. And color me surprised, I wasn't even aware Luxembourg had a space program. But in the last few years, the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg has moved to join the U.S. At the forefront of what has been dubbed the new space race. So they've signed a memorandum of understanding last Friday to boost this research. And Luxembourg says it's going to be an important next wave of economic growth. Well, yes, it can be. It certainly was the case back in the 60s with the race to the moon. Not too long ago, a private group in Israel launched a lunar lander, which unfortunately, owing to some kind of mistake that shut off its engine too soon, it crash landed on the moon. Well, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has now found the crash site. They were comparing before and after pictures, and they have spotted where the lander impacted. It's very elongated. There's no visible crater, and they're saying it sort of looks like it came in at a very, very sharp angle. Okay. So, anyway, here's a little article backing on up, and it's talking about John Bolton. This is coming out of Government Slaves, and they're saying it is time to replace him. He blew up the Hanoi summit with a memo. He embarrassed the U.S. abroad, backing Guaido's failed coup. And sorry for the pauses. I'm communicating with our control room. Okay, the text window has stopped working. Oh, there we are. Yeah, there's definitely packet loss taking place somewhere along the line. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. All right, yeah, I'm going to call in for the last segment of the show. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to take any phone calls. Do we have any idea what's going on?
Okay. I have no idea. 3 hours of Hinkley on Verdo today. And
I can't even understand you guys. It sounds like... What?
The U.S. Supreme Court have upheld.
Hi, this is Michael. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Final segment of the program today. And once again, I'm doing it over the phone. This has been a real bad day for the Gremlins. And it's another reminder of just how desperately Republic Broadcasting needs your support so that they can keep this equipment up and running and provide the best quality broadcast that we can, which certainly was not the case today. Alrighty, so getting on back here, there was an article over at Government Slaves, and they're talking about John Bolton and saying it's been a bad year on the job for him. First of all, blowing up the Hanoi summit with a memo, embarrassing the U.S. by backing Juan Guaido's fizzled-out coup, and now, of course, getting American forces into a potential war with Iran based solely on non-specific Israeli intelligence. And so Bolton is not helping Donald Trump deliver on the campaign promises he made about non-intervention and a rehaul of foreign policy. And it makes the comment right in this article. This is the result of extreme incompetence, if not outright sabotage, and I would go the outright sabotage. So Trump is reportedly growing frustrated with Bolton, and this article is suggesting that a replacement for him would be retired Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor, who is about as anti-establishment as Donald Trump himself is. He's got a strong military background, and because he's been in the military, he understands that war is not fun, that it's a bad thing, and that we should be looking for more peace here. Alrighty, there is apparently yet another claim of a cancer treatment, possibly a cancer cure. This was announced by British scientists today. They're going to develop new drugs under a 75 million pound program that's the best chance yet of beating the illness. Instead of shock and awe chemotherapy with its cruel side effects, they'll target ways of stopping cancer cells resisting treatment. Well, that would certainly be a lot better for the patients. And they're saying tumors will either be beaten completely or their growth limited to allow patients to live much longer. Now, call me old and cynical here, but I keep seeing all these news articles and releases about we're going to have a cure for this, we're going to have a cure for that, and it somehow never really seems to manifest. And we understand that the medical industrial complex isn't really interested in cures anyway. Even Goldman Sachs came on out and admitted curing patients is a bad business model for the medical industrial complex. It's treatments, 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 treatments. So anyway, for our last story today, we all know that facial recognition cameras are going up everywhere, and apparently over in Great Britain, it is now illegal to hide your face from police facial recognition cameras. And apparently it's a 90-pound fine. And the Metropolitan Police were testing the live facial recognition software in East London. And as the man walked past, he pulled his jumper up above his chin. Okay, there's the music. I could just barely hear it. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller, and I hope he has a better luck with his show than I had with this one today. Please donate to RBN. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow, I hope. Aloha, America.